Hitler made it clear from the beginning that he hated Jews and wanted them destroyed. This either won him support or it was ignored. Either way, ignoring or supporting his Jew hatred meant once he had the ability and means to act on his hate, the Jews of Europe were doomed. Once the slaughtering of the Jews starts, it never ends just with the Jew. Hamas made it clear from the beginning that they hated Jews and wanted them destroyed. This either won them support or it was ignored. Either way, ignoring or supporting their Jew hatred meant once they had the ability and means to act on their hate, any Jew they could get their hands on was doomed. There is a difference between seeking an end to the Israeli and Arab conflict that does not include the destruction of the state of Israel and the genocide of its Jewish citizens, and the destruction of Israel and extermination and genocide of its Jewish citizens that Hamas seeks. There are no pretenses anymore where anyone stands. If someone supports Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and their allies, then it means support for rape, murder, and genocide. In the same way, a free Germany to Hitler meant the genocide of the Jewish people. A free Palestine to Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, the rulers of Iran, and all of their allies and supporters means the rape, slaughter, extermination, and genocide of the Jews of Israel. When Hitler had the power to do what he wanted against the Jews, it started with economic and academic boycotts and other boycotts and the beginnings of brutality. An impoverished, isolated Jewish population made it easier for Hitler to continue to the next stages of mass murder, extermination, rape, genocide, and torture, weakening and destroying Israel economically, along with isolating Israel academically, as many in the West and elsewhere seek to do, means nothing more than the weakening of Israel's ability to defend itself, so that the genocide, extermination that Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, and their allies seek is easier to implement. A free Germany to Hitler meant exterminating Jews. A free Palestine to Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, the rulers of Iran, and their allies means exterminating Jews. There are no masks anymore. There are no pretenses anymore. Support for Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and their allies means support for what Hamas and Islamic Jihad just did to the Jews of Israel they managed to get their hands on. This is what Hamas and Islamic Jihad did to the Jews they got their hands on. And this is what the Free Palestine supporters of Hamas and Islamic Jihad support. Hamas and Islamic Jihad murdered Jewish citizens in cold blood. They raped and sodomized Jewish women. They murdered babies and cut off the heads of a number of babies. They took defenseless civilians as captives. They beat, tortured, and abused captives, including children. They took captive old women in their 80s and 90s and paraded them around as trophies. They slaughtered the family members of babies. And some of the babies they did not slaughter and behead, they took as captive back into Gaza. They paraded around the murdered bodies of young women that most likely were raped before being executed. They beat, abuse, and torture prisoners. They gouge out eyes and more. That is what the supporters of Hamas support. Some would defend their support of Hamas and Islamic Jihad by deflecting blame onto Israel. The people that commit atrocities are responsible for the atrocities they commit. Deflection and whataboutism does not free people from responsibility. Hamas and Islamic Jihad committed atrocities, and they must be held accountable. Hitler deflected blame and responsibility for the mass murders, rape, genocide, torture, destruction of Europe onto the Jews right until the end of his demonic life. Innocent innocent civilians would die in Gaza because of the war that Hamas and Islamic Jihad started, this too will be blamed on the Jews. But it is Hamas and Islamic Jihad that went out and murdered, kidnapped, raped, and tortured, and then used their own civilians to hide behind. If they are not destroyed now, it is only a matter of time before they rape, murder, and torture again. If the supporters of Hamas and Islamic Jihad were honest, their signs would not be written, "Free Palestine." Their screams would not be, "Free Palestine." Instead, it would be, "Kill the Jews."